All right. Well, hello, I'm Brent, CEO of Autosport Labs, and this live stream is about setting up video and data streaming with your RaceCapture device. So what we're going to do in this live stream is we're actually going to start with a full setup from scratch. We're going to step you through each phase of the installation. And while it's doing the installation, we're going to have an opportunity to answer your questions. And then after it's installed, we'll show you how to configure it, set it up, and we'll show you the cameras and microphones that we recommend and that we'll also be making available soon. And then finally, we'll wrap up with another Q&A session. All right, so a little demo of what you're looking at here, and then we're going to switch to the wiki to kind of get you started so you can go along with us for the installation. So right here we have a screen that we'll be using to do the installation. This screen is only needed for the installation. When it's running in your car, you won't need the screen, obviously. The system will run headless. We're going to demo it using the recommended B-Link micro PC that you've probably heard about and shown in our wiki. This is a powerful yet super compact and also really affordable computer that can be used for doing the video and data streaming. And then during the demo and installation, we'll be bringing in the RaceCapture and cameras and showing how that integrates as well. All right, so I'm going to switch over to our wiki and kind of get you familiar with what the instructions will look like. So if you go to our website, wiki.autosportlabs.com, I'm going to paste it in the chat here. Bring this link up so you can follow along when we go through the installation. So a little intro, in case you're not familiar with it. The video and data streaming with RaceCapture is designed to work with your existing RaceCapture system. And what's cool about this is that with your existing RaceCapture system, you already have your dashboard on your car, but this streamer encoder with the cameras and the hotspot can be used to overlay data on top of video from these cameras. And then you can have an experience where you have the dashboard in the car with predictive timing. You have live telemetry like you've had before, streaming the podium for analysis and pit-to-car messaging. And then also you have the ability to live stream to YouTube with a custom designed dashboard. And that's what this wiki and our live stream talks about. So what we're going to do is you can go ahead and scan these recommended installation components. So we're going to install with this B-Link. We have some other alternatives. And we have some other parts on the list. So we're going to scroll forward and start with our installation. And I'm going to switch to the camera soon and start the installation live on the screen here. So the first thing to do is connect the keyboard, mouse, and monitor, and then start the installation for Ubuntu 22. So there's a download link, so you just download the Ubuntu desktop, install it to a USB flash drive. I've already done this, and when I switch over to the camera, I've already booted the system, and we're ready to do the install. So it looks like we have a question here in the chat. Craig says, what if we use Raspberry Pi for the dashboard? You can do that. The Raspberry Pi can connect over USB or Wi-Fi. And then the streaming device, the streaming computer, can connect over USB or Wi-Fi. So one has to be USB and the other one has to be something else like Wi-Fi. Good question, though. Okay, I have Andy here. Andy is going to watch for questions and relay them to me. We're just right next to each other. And then Andy will also be able to chat with you and answer your questions too. So fire your questions and we'll help you as efficiently as possible. And we are ready to go. So I'm going to switch over to the camera and we are going to start this installation. How's it going, Andy?
It's going pretty good. How's it going there, Brent?
It's going good. This should be, the last live stream we did was a almost complete disaster, but we have a brand new live streaming setup here at our lab, and I think it's going much better than last time.
Yeah, it looks pretty sweet.
Yeah, it's going to work. Okay, so what you're looking at here on the screen is the first installation screen when you get Ubuntu loaded up on a USB drive. You boot up the USB drive, and then you get to the screen, and then this is the main installation screen. So a really important thing to do at this phase is that you want to do a normal installation here, and then when it says other options, you want to download updates, and you also want to check this box that says install third-party software for graphics and Wi-Fi hardware for additional media formats. It's really important because the RaceCapture software it runs on here that does a video and graphics rendering, it leverages the GPU of the system, and you need those third-party drivers installed for the proper operation. So I'm going to go ahead and hit continue. And then you want to do a normal installation, and then the other options, these are pre-selected, so install third-party software as it did before. And now it's thinking. And now it says, okay, what kind of installation do we want? We want to erase and reinstall. Well, I've run through this installation several times, including once last night, so I'm going to erase and reinstall it again. So choose the top option, and then hit the button Install Now. It'll give you a warning. It says, change this to disk. Yes, we're going to do that, and click Continue. Now, while it's installing, installation is going to be pretty fast, but you can go ahead and fire off some questions at this point while it's copying files, and we'll kind of fill in the dead time for that. Okay, so it says, where are you? Los Angeles, so that's setting the time zone, no big deal. And then you can set some information here. So your name, we're going to call it a streamer. Computer name is streamer. Username is streamer, that's fine. You could set it to whatever you want. I'm going to set the password to password because I'm lame. This is just a demo. Now, of course, you could set your password to whatever you want. It's no big deal. But what you do need is this login automatically. And that's important for when the RaceCapture software is installed. It will automatically log in, fire up the software, so this thing will start streaming as soon as the power is applied, basically. Going to hit continue. And I think we're going to be in the copying files phase. Yes, so now we're copying files.
Alan Chick asked if there's a max resolution for the camera attached.
Yeah, that's a good question. So the camera is the cameras are 1080p. The streaming is at 1080p at the moment. So the max resolution isn't really important. Let's say if you have some really old webcam that's like 640 by 480, the system will display it on the screen. It'll just be kind of coarse, low resolution. So there's no max or minimum resolution for the camera per se. Ideally, you would want to get good high quality 1080p cameras. We will have cameras available soon. I'll do a little preview here, but this is one of our cameras that we'll be making available as a kit. These are great quality 1080p capable cameras. And that will be part of a dual camera kit with the microphone and all the accessories that you need for getting this set up. So it's kind of like a one-time purchase.
And then he asked, also followed up and asked if using a 4K camera, can it stream that or save it to a local file as 4K if streamed up to 1080?
The system's designed to, it will, if you're connecting a 4K camera, the system will actually, so cameras are typically rated as capable of some resolution, but the computer will tell it when it's connected to go to X or Y resolution. So our system, because it's kind of designed to be oriented towards streaming, most people never want to stream more than 1080. So it'll tell the camera to go to the resolution that makes sense for streaming. And then the recording to disk that's done locally in parallel, it'll be the same video source as what's being streamed. So if it's streaming in 1080, it'll record in 1080. So that's how it works.
And then the other one asked if the crossland off-road racing. I am currently using a Mevo camera to live stream straight to Facebook and YouTube. Can we set that up to overlay in real time? And then he followed up, transmitting video via Starlink on the car.
Right. So the Mevo camera probably wouldn't work unless it acts like a USB camera. So the way this system works is that you have USB cameras plugged into the B-Link, into this streaming computer, and then the RaceCapture app overlays, takes that real-time camera feed, displays it on the screen, puts the data on top of it, and then encodes all of that and sends it out to YouTube. So those B-Link cameras, if they can act like a USB camera, then like connected with a cable, then that would work. But otherwise, the Mevo cameras are really designed for their own streaming purpose. Kind of like, GoPro streaming wouldn't work, a Yi camera wouldn't work because they're really designed to do all-in-one streaming. Camera, integral streaming, and then broadcast. And then as far as Starlink goes, yeah, so Starlink offers a Wi-Fi connection, or I don't know, maybe the mobile Starlink offers Ethernet. Probably not, but either way, if there's a network connection between the streaming device and the internet, and however it works, then yeah, it'll totally work.
And then Alan Chug, has it been tested with the GoPro 8 or newer in USB mode, and does it work with the provided video stabilization?
Yeah, so I think we haven't tested it with the GoPro 8 in USB mode. If it comes up in USB mode, like a regular USB camera, then it should work. The key is it needs to be set to automatically come up in USB mode on power up. You don't want to have to push any buttons on the unit, like you connect the USB camera and then have to push a button or something. That's not ideal. The GoPro should automatically go into USB mode upon power up, just like a regular USB camera would. So we haven't tested that. I'm sure somebody will get around to testing that, and that will require some research. But if that does work, then that's great because GoPros have great quality, and probably you'll get the image stabilization as a bonus, maybe, but that's kind of a TBD.
And then David asked if SDI or HDMI a no-go then, since you mentioned USB only?
Well, so that's another good question. So they do make HDMI capture devices that make an HDMI source look like a USB video source. So we're actually doing that with this camera right now. We have our camera that's outputting HDMI that's going into an HDMI capture, which outputs a video stream over USB. So if you get one of those, and they're like a really small, they look like an oversized USB plug. So if you get that, plug it in, there's an HDMI connection on the other side, and you have an HDMI source, that would totally work. Absolutely. I mean, not guaranteed, but it 99% sure that it'll work.
And then Crossland Off-Road replied again, the computer won't live in the car. Wonder if we can overlay it after the fact via embedding.
The computer won't live in the car. I'm not sure what that means.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think he's probably talking about overlaying video data post race.
Yeah, well, you could do that with like Race Render, or the RaceCapture app has a analysis mode where you can put the video in the background and put gauges on top of it, and then you can kind of get that same effect. And eventually we'll have like an export these 3 laps to a video, you know, and we'll be able to do it after the fact. Yeah, the small computer that we're talking about, this goes in the car. Yeah, this is actually an embedded system that will go in your race car for doing the live video.
And it's powered by the...
Yeah, so yeah, we will, yeah, definite, good question. We'll actually get to that. So looks like the installation's complete, but a little aside, yeah, we've tested this ourselves, and a few others have tested this as well, but this is a common 12 volt to 19 volt adapter, like for your laptop, that you can get, and this will power this embedded system right in your car.
He did bring up that he doesn't think they will survive in their desert runs.
Yeah, it's possible. Neither will on that note, neither would a well, I don't know about a Mevo, but so the thing to think about is that a lot of live streaming systems, you have a what is it called, the live shell? Yeah, it's like your typical. You have to think of every part of the link. So you're going to have to protect your 4G modem because those have RJ45 Ethernet ports and they're not dustproof nor waterproof. You're going to have to, your video encoder is probably like a live shell or something similar. Those have no better dust or water protection as this B-Link. So what you can do is design an incomplete, like sealed environment to put these in and then protect those against dust if you're in that extreme of an environment. Make sure that it's fan cooled with filters or whatever. You're running in an extreme environment, you could just dedicate a little bit of extra work to protect every link of the chain. So the streaming computer, the 4G modem, and whatever your system is for doing that. So yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, you're doing off-road racing, you're gonna have to do a little bit of extra work to protect that. So yeah, good question.
And then we have Peter Ekman. What are the thermal limits on the mini PC? Cockpit can easily get over 100 degrees Fahrenheit pretty easily on a hot day around where he is.
I don't have those numbers on hand on this stream, but yeah, you would want to make sure there's adequate ventilation. When things overheat in a race car, it's often because of batteries. So a tablet that overheats is because it's protecting the battery. A GoPro that overheats is because it's protecting the battery. So these things they do have fan cooling. There's no battery installed, and they'll do a good job of throttling back a bit if it's reaching its thermal limits. But if you install it with adequate ventilation, I think it would be okay. But again, this is an experimental setup, and that's why we're showing you how to do this and how you'd be able to help test it. So we're definitely at the early stages of this project. But yeah.
The Raspberry Pi dash overheats even though it's right in front of the vented air.
Yeah, Raspberry Pi dash. Yeah, you need more cooling. All right, let's go ahead and complete this installation. We're going to restart. So when you restart it, it says, please remove the installation medium, then press enter. So now we are rebooting. Let me know if there's any other questions.
Oh, this is a fun conversation. Yeah, so AE86 Craig just responded to Peter Ekman saying they glue their heatsink to their sock chip. It seems to work for them.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
Alan Chuck is in the heat of Arizona and no heat problems with their dash or their Pi dash.
Yeah, cooling is pretty important. This B-Link is fan cooled, and I think we would love to see feedback on how well it works for different people. Okay, here we go. So now we're because it automatically booted up. It goes straight because it will automatically boot it up. Sorry, and then it logged in automatically. So we have some housekeeping to do here. Next, done. Okay. So one thing we need to do is we need to do this weird thing with the key store, and it is described in the instructions. And during the installation, we have to go in. First of all, we have to log out. So we're going to log out. And we're going to log back in with the password we specified. And this is important. You have to do this step. Then the next thing you need to do is go into your key store, and this is a one-time setup. So this is not your login password. This is a password used when storing, when other apps store credentials. So we're going to change this password. We're going to specify the old password, which is it used the current login password. And then we're going to set this to blank. And then what that will do is if you allow RaceCapture to start up without prompting you for a key store password. Because if you don't do this, the RaceCapture app pops up, and then you'll see this thing on the screen that says, what's your key store password? And then if it's set to blank, then it'll just skip past that part. So we haven't automated this step yet with our installation script, so it is something that you still need to do. So the next step that we need to do is actually install the streaming software. And to do that, you will need to open a terminal. So hit the button in the lower left, type terminal, and then hit enter, and then you'll get this terminal. And then there are two commands you have to do here. So you need to install a tool called curl. So we just say sudo apt install curl. Specify your password. Install that. So curl isn't installed for some reason by default with Ubuntu, which is kind of weird. It's kind of basic. It should be installed, but it's not, so we just have to install it quickly. And then we actually use that same command, curl dash lowercase s, uppercase L, bit.ly /3 capital R capital L 9 Y O J. And then the pipe symbol, and then bash. So this will download the installation package and automatically run it, and all you have to do is just sit back and watch it do its thing. So we're installing, it automatically updates the system. It will copy down the RaceCapture app, and it'll copy down the streamer, and then when it's done, it'll be ready to reboot. See if there's any other questions. Oh, there you go.
Rebooting.
Yeah, so Alan points out something interesting. So there's, in the wiki, there's we recommend the B link if you want like the Cadillac setup, or the Ferrari setup, we should call it. But the more affordable option is to get like an Elite Desk 800 or an Optiplex 7050, and this has like kind of like a slightly older i7 processor, but it's enough to do the video streaming, and these things are dirt cheap on eBay. They're like $100 with the SSD and 8 or 16 gigs of RAM. The Dell is nice because it has built-in Wi-Fi. The Elite desks typically don't have Wi-Fi, but these things are like, you could buy two and have one as a backup. I mean, like all in, like if you have these spare parts lying around, you could get this. You could add video and data live streaming to your RaceCapture system for, maybe a couple $100, or maybe zero if you have one of these micro PCs. So that's what's really cool and why we're so excited about this. Go ahead.
So Alan asked, once installed, how do you check version of the streamer app and update it after the initial install?
Yeah, so it's basically you're installing the RaceCapture app, so you can look at the version of the RaceCapture app, and then under the system status. And if you need to do an update, all you do is just rerun this curl command. You can run this as many times as you want. It won't change your settings, but it'll just update the latest versions of either the RaceCapture app or the streaming software. So, and then just get notified. I think we have a mailing list that we can point you to get notified when new versions of the app and firmware come out. And then once that happens, all you have to do is just issue this update command. All right, so we're done. So we're really close. So we're going to go ahead and reboot. So you hit the icon in the upper right. If you're not familiar with Linux, it's really similar to Windows. So you have your start button, you have your power button here. Similar idea. So power off, we're going to restart. And when the system restarts, it's going to go straight into the RaceCapture app. So there's like a little timer here. How long does this wait for? Probably for a few seconds. There we go. So this is kind of once this is set up, it will just start streaming as soon as you apply power to it, just pretty much automatically. Okay, so this is basically the installation or the setup process of the RaceCapture app. What you can do is you can go through the setup wizard. You could say select your device. We have a RaceCapture track here that we're going to test with. So we're going to select the RaceCapture track Mark III, and we're going to, okay, so it says waiting for connection. So we're going to connect the USB cable to the RaceCapture system. Now we're connected. Hit next, and then just for the purposes of this demo, I'm going to exit now. Say continue setup, no thanks. And now we are on the dashboard of the app that you're all so familiar with. So go up a little. We're looking at the wiki here. And yeah, so the first thing we want to do is we want to set the RaceCapture app into a mode that's appropriate for live streaming. So we want to turn off a lot of stuff. For example, we have to go into, first thing we want to do is go into Setup and then go to App Preferences. First thing we want to do is set the startup screen to Dashboard. So when the RaceCapture app fires up, it goes straight to the dashboard. And then the next thing you want to do is turn off Record Session. And this is the data logging session that the RaceCapture app does internally. Since you're probably live streaming or recording data on your like dashboard device, you could just turn this off. If you turn it on, it doesn't hurt, but you're probably doing this on another device, so there's no reason to have it on. The other thing we want is we want to set full screen. And yeah, that's it for this particular screen. Then the next thing you want to do is you want to go to the dashboard, and you also want to disable a number of things, such as go to more, hit the gear icon in the upper right, and then press more settings, and then you want to go to behavior, and you want to turn off pit to car alerts, because you don't want your YouTube viewers, seeing the pit to car alerts on the screen. You want to turn off the pit stop timer, because that would be annoying also. And then an important one is, we had a pretty good laugh because when we first tested this, we forgot to turn off the remote dashboard navigation. So if you have like buttons for navigating the RaceCapture app's dashboard, or if you have Shift X3 and you're hitting the left or right buttons, well, then the app will also start navigating too on the YouTube live stream. So you want to turn this off also. So you want to turn all of those things off, and then that puts it into simply dashboard display mode, nothing else. Okay, so I'm going to set the RaceCapture device on top of the B-Link, and I guess we can pause for any other questions.
Nothing then yet.
Oh, okay, cool. Right on. So let me bring in a couple of cameras. So I'm going to plug one camera on the left front port. The B-Link, you want to put on the B-Link, you want to put the cameras on the front port, and then other stuff on the rear. The front ports have the USB 3 connections, which are higher speed, and it works better. So I'm going to plug 2 cameras in. So we have a couple of cameras plugged in now. And this is actually the fun part. This is the part where you get to design the dashboard. So by default, the dashboard comes up in the raw channels view. So we don't need this particular gauge, so I'm going to delete it. So I'm going to delete the gauge. And then the next thing to do is go back hit the gear icon in the upper right, go into more settings, and then go into camera preferences. So on here, you'll see the video source for camera 1 and camera 2. You can select it. So for camera 1, select video 0, and camera 2, select video 2. These, when you drop this down, these will show up after the cameras are plugged in. So now that our cameras are mapped to the camera 1 and camera 2 devices, then what you can do is you can add a gauge. So the video actually shows up as a gauge. And then you would select which camera you want that gauge to display. So we're going to say camera 1. And there is our gauge on the dashboard. So let me do, so we're like actually pointed at the keyboard right now. So you can move this gauge around, center it on the dashboard. Camera 1 becomes the primary camera. Get that centered. And then, since most people want to do picture-in-picture, you can add another gauge. Select video again, then select camera 2, and that is your camera 2 source. So then most people will put that down in the corner. And this is pointed at the RaceCapture sitting on top of the B-Link, and then you can see the 2 camera views that way. So there's your basic picture-in-picture dashboard design. And naturally, the next thing you'll want to do is you'll want to add some gauges. So in order to do that, it's just like designing the dashboard that you're already used to. So you go Add Gauge, select an analog gauge, and then let's do speed. And here is a speed gauge. So this customizes just like the RaceCapture dashboard that you're used to using. So we have the lap time simulator working right now on this RaceCapture track. So it's just simulating some lap times and additional data. So I'm going to add another gauge. So let's do a bar graph gauge. Let's make that RPM. And there's our RPM gauge. And that RPM gauge can sit here, or however you'd like to design it. And then here is that is a simple video and data dashboard. So yeah, once you get the software set up, it is just about that easy to get it configured. I'll pause for a little bit.
Does this work just as well with the streamer PC being Bluetooth to the RaceCap?
So the streaming PC won't connect to the RaceCapture device over Bluetooth. It's only USB or Wi-Fi. So Bluetooth is only for Android at this point. All right. So the next part of setting this up is to configure your YouTube streaming key. Whenever you go to YouTube and set up a stream, it will give you a key to configure. So the way to do that is you got to switch back to the regular Ubuntu desktop, and there's a trick for doing that. So you'll have to do this, you'll need a monitor and keyboard attached. And what you want to do is do Control-T, quit. So Control-T, quit, and it puts it up in this corner of the screen. It's hard for you to see, but you'll see it. Then hit Enter. Then you're back to the login. Enter your password. And I just did the wrong thing. Because I forgot to switch the mode. Okay, Control-T, quit. Okay, so you select your name, and before you enter the password, there's an icon in the lower right, and you want to switch to Ubuntu instead of this RaceCapture video and data streamer. So once you do that, now you're back to your desktop. Okay, so for configuring the rest of the system, you'll want to edit this video config.ini file. So it's this, the system, when you install the software, it'll automatically create a default version of this file that you can use as a starting point. The settings in this file, it'd be nice if we could increase the font size. Preferences, font. Oh, that's fun. Okay, cool. You should be able to see that now. Okay. So, under the capture section, there's an audio device. And we actually haven't talked about that yet, but we can do that now. So what we recommend is a USB microphone. So this is a USB connection, and that's a microphone. You could place this somewhere in the car where you can get good audio quality. And when you do that in this configuration, when there's only one USB microphone, then this audio device is number one. So if you go with this recommended setting, especially if you're using a camera without a microphone, which our cameras are, they're just cameras with no embedded microphone, and you plug in just one USB microphone, then that audio device is going to be one and it'll just work. So that's one thing to keep in mind. And then you will want to plug the USB microphone into the back of the streaming system, and then there you'll have your audio for the stream. So the next section that you can configure is a local recording. So the video directory is what we call home videos. So if you go to your files here, this is your home directory by default, and then you can go into videos, and then these are the folders that are time-stamped, and then that will contain a video of the session. And then what it creates are segments of length that you can define. So as it's recording video, it'll record a video of a certain length, and then create another video, and then create another video after that, after those 60-second increments are reached. You can change this to like 120 for 2 minutes or whatever you would like. The reason why we've split it into segments is to provide robustness against power loss. The reason why this is important also is that if we were to do it all as one file, there is the risk of file corruption and like losing everything. This is the reason why people lose their GoPro videos, because when GoPros abruptly crash or shut down, you lose a video file. And this is also the reason why dash cams record videos in segments, because it's for abrupt shutdowns to guarantee that you don't lose video. So what you could do is, it does add some inconvenience, but it does also guarantee that you will get, basically you won't lose your video. So there is software that can append video segments together, and that's a pretty mechanical thing, just pointing at the point the software at that whole directory, and then you'll get a complete video. Yeah, you could do that too. And then, eventually we'll work on making it a little more automated. But, we are at the bleeding edge of this capability, and just as is just a lot of stuff for y'all to play with. So we will definitely be making improvements over time. So the last section here is the streaming URL. The streaming URL is the by default connects to the YouTube Live 2 URL, and then in YouTube, when you go to your YouTube streaming configuration panel, it will tell you the streaming key, and you'll want to copy and paste that. Just delete this part, and then put in your own streaming key, whatever YouTube tells you. And then you'll want to save this file. And then, so we'll go ahead and save it. And then you will want to log out again. Click the streamer, and then click this gear icon in the lower right here. And then reselect the RaceCapture video and data streamer. Put in your password, because now it's in the password asking mode. That's okay, because if you power cycle it, it'll still auto log in. So, and then now when you're back into the we're back into the dashboard. As you can see, the RaceCapture app fired up automatically, goes straight to the dashboard. The video's working, the data's working, and then the video streaming agent will have the YouTube streaming URL. And then assuming that your B-Link system is on the network. Let's say you have your Wi-Fi configured, or if you're doing a really good job and you have it connected via Ethernet to a 4G router that has Ethernet input, then you'll be connected to the internet, and then you should be able to go to your YouTube live stream and then see the dashboard playing, and then be able to test it in your garage before the race.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so that's how it works. Yeah, we can certainly open it up for questions at this time. One thing that we're really interested in is experimenting with different types of microphones. Like, some of your cars are really loud, especially if you're running like an RX-7, which are legendarily loud, right? Our buddy Gil suggested like a drum mic, or a high SPL drum mic, which could be a good use for an audio input source. I like that idea. I think that's cool. There is another microphone that we have tested briefly, not on a car, but just tested on the desktop. This is a microphone that is, I think it's in the wiki. I think it's linked in the wiki. But this is an analog microphone connected to a USB audio capture device. So instead of a dedicated USB microphone, this is a recording device for USB, and then there's headphone and microphone jack inputs. So you plug that microphone into the microphone input, plug it in, and it's basically a USB microphone. So this might offer a bit better quality than a lapel USB microphone, but we're definitely interested in testing different options.
Is there a way to adjust volume in RaceCapture?
The volume adjustment that's actually a great question. The volume adjustment is done either on the command line or on the UI tool when you switch back into the desktop mode, and that should be remembered across power cycles. So it will require a little bit of trial and error. Your question about volume, that's a really good one, because when I've seen examples of like audio clipping,
right,
I'm not sure if it's like the element on the microphone that's being overdriven, or if that could be handled through like a software setting, like reducing the gain.
Like with the bandwidth limiter that we did.
Yeah.
That prevents it from exceeding past a certain decibel.
Exactly. So like yeah, it's kind of like a microphone's like a reverse speaker. You know, like if the diaphragm is getting maxed out because of it's just so loud.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I want to figure out is, can we just adjust it in software, or do we need a special kind of mic that can deal with that much noise?
Right. So Dave has another question. Specific issues of bandwidth with SIM cards using the video setup? Question marks.
Yeah. So the I think what I'm hearing in the question is like the bit rate that's being used, and we'll have to follow up on that. But the default broadcast rate, resolution is 1080. We are looking at doing 720. Nobody's asked for 4K except for, well, in the earlier chat, people were asking about 4K local recording, which I can understand, but I don't think anybody wants to. It's 2023, but still, I don't think anybody wants to stream in 4K just because of cellular costs. People have asked about broadcasting in 720, which is, I think, a fine idea and something that we could support in the future with another update. And that'll save bandwidth. I don't have at hand what the bit rate that we've configured, and it's not configurable through the config file, but that is something that we could look at doing. And we can come back and provide information about the bit rate that's being used. See, yeah, open it up for questions. Any questions about video and data streaming or Autosport Labs or RaceCapture before we wrap this up?
Oh, do we need a different cell modem?
Oh, different cell modem. Yeah, so the way this is designed is that you will have a dedicated 4G hotspot in the car. If you're talking about the internal like RaceCapture Pro or Podium Connect embedded cellular, that cellular is designed just for that device. It's not designed to transmit video. It's not designed to be a hotspot. So that's a different use case. So this is a brand new use case for doing video, and you will need an external 4G modem or Starlink, setup or whatever at the moment. And then, of course, we'll have improved solutions in the future.
So Vance asked, I have 2 Raspberry Pi dashes in the car. One is connected with USB, and the second one is connected with Wi-Fi. How do I connect the streaming computer?
So technically, RaceCapture supports 2 Wi-Fi connections at the same time. It's kind of pushing the limit of the 2 concurrent Wi-Fi connections. So you could try it. What you would want to do is you'll have like your USB connection to Raspberry Pi number 1 and a Wi-Fi connection to Raspberry Pi number 2, and then the streaming computer would also connect to the Raspberry Pi. To the RaceCapture over Wi-Fi. See if that works. Yeah.
And Slowball had, sorry if I your name. Do you need to put the streaming key for Podium in the RaceCapture app during setup?
Not technically for video and data live streaming, but somebody pointed out a really good possibility is that you can use this streaming computer also for broadcasting data to Podium. It needs to be the only one doing it, of course. You can't have multiple devices trying to stream to Podium, otherwise they'll fight with each other. So all you have to do is you go to Setup, go to App Preferences, and then say Send Telemetry, and this will send telemetry to Podium. And I actually have it configured under the telemetry tab here, and I'm already, as soon as I turn that on, the streaming computer is broadcasting to Podium and also generating, rendering, and broadcasting video to YouTube. So it's doing both at the same time. So yeah, this could act as your video and data telemetry streamer over one link. So that's a great question.
Crossland Off-Road Racing just said Rugged Radios has the ability to provide output.
I don't know what that means exactly.
Not sure what he was referring
Yeah.
to.
Maybe audio output? Yeah.
Oh, then you can get pit to car and car to pit audio.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I got it. So what you could do is, so let's say if you had, you would need an audio mixer. So if you were to use this USB audio input, so this red connection is what you would use, you would need like an audio splitter so that you would have a microphone that would record the ambient sound of racing. That's like a splitter. And then you would also have the input from your radio going into that splitter. And then those two together would join the audio signal. And yeah, the opposite of splitting. It would merge the two audio signals into this audio USB capture, and then it would record everything together. So you would hear the sound of racing, and then whenever somebody talked over the radio, it would be blended in with that.
So it'd just be all one audio channel then, essentially.
Exactly.
Awesome.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool to see.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we're getting close to wrapping it up. We're available to answer any other questions, but I think this was pretty good so far. I think you have all the tools needed for getting this set up. One thing to note is that we will have these cameras available soon through our dealers with a windshield mount and also a camera with an adhesive GoPro style mount, and a kit with a microphone, just kind of like an all-in-one one-stop shop kind of deal. One thing I forgot to mention, and that's what happens during live streams, the monitor here is connected to the B-Link. You will also need an HDMI emulator here. So this just basically tells the computer that a monitor is attached and just fakes it out. So once you're ready, like you have everything set up, and then you're ready to go, you would just unplug the monitor, replace the monitor connection with this HDMI emulator, and then when the system powers up, it'll just start broadcasting automatically. So yeah, like this setup, I would say is for setting up video and data live streaming with an existing RaceCapture system with the B-Link. B-Link is like $289 regular price. All these accessories probably will, you know, depending on your source, you probably can get this up and running for about $500 if you were to just buy everything new. And then of course, if you have the some of the parts on hand, you could just start reducing that. So if you're on a budget and you want some powerful video and data live streaming, this is a great solution for you, especially if you have a RaceCapture system already. Okay, well, thanks for watching, and we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. Feel free to drop us an email or comment in one of our like Facebook or Discord or whatever, and we'll get back to you. Cool, thanks.